How many people here think that um, Bryce Huff is going to replace your best defensive player the last two? All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on. Howie Roseman's gamble is next. Xander had a topic this morning. He kind of hit on it like this much. And when you're in a conversation with another dude, sometimes, you're looking to get the topics. And I just happened to be tuning it on and I heard him talk about. And then I heard John McMullen say something about Bryce Huff. This is Howie's biggest gamble. Okay? So I did some more diving into this. How many people in here believe that Bryce Huff is adequately going to replace your best defensive football player in Haason Reddick this year? How many people here think that Bryce Huff is going to replace your best defensive player the last 2 years? Easily 10 sacks. I really don't know. Huff getting full-time reps? He's not getting full-time reps. God forbid you start him on first down and get murdered. Get murdered. Close this year. Next year, no drop-off. Oh. Okay. Huff's a one-trick pony. Not that Reddick's not. Okay. So here's Bryce Huff at the age of 25 right now. Okay. By the way, one thing John McMullen said that is right on. And Xander kind of threw that out there. You know what it is? Dude, if you don't get 100% equal production, it's a failure at $18 million. It's a failure. You can't have a 60 or 70% production. That's a 40% drop off in an area where you struggled mightily a year ago in pass pressure. You get 75% production compared to Reddick. That's still a monster drop off. It'll be a monster drop off 2 years in a row. That guy has to have equal, if not better. Like, get this. Are you guys how many people are suggesting that Saquon Barkley is going to give the same, if not more, production than what DeAndre Swift did? How many people believe that? That Barkley's going to give you more than 1,300 yards, 1,200 yards. Let's be fair. More than 1,200 yards and 33 catches. You think he's going to do more than 1,200 yards and 33 catches? Okay? Barkley's not going for 1,400 yards. That means the wide receivers are going to get less targets. That's not happening, Dominique. That's not happening. You're paying those guys $25 million annually as a combination. That's not going to happen. And by the way, if Barkley he's on pace for 1,500 yards, he'll never make the season because that's 300 carries. You're not giving him 300 carries. You'll be lucky to see 225 carries. Not giving him 300 carries. He's never had over 240. You guys are nuts. Most he's ever. Now, again, I get the better talent, but again, it's about spreading the ball around and playing championship football, right? Here, but the point is that you think he's going to be more productive. Why shouldn't you think that with Bryce Huff? Here's Haason Reddick the last 4 years. And he's 29. He's 4 years older than Huff. And here's Huff's numbers first. 16 total tackles, 2 sacks. 14 tackles, 2 sacks. 6 tackles, 3.5 sacks. Last year, 29 tackles, 10 sacks. Here's Reddick, 29 the last 4 years. 63 tackles, 12.5 sacks. 68 tackles, 11 sacks. 49 tackles, 16 sacks. Last year, 38 tackles and 11 sacks. 2, 3.5, 10. 12.5, 11, 16, 11. And you really think that Bryce Huff is going to equal or supersede Reddick? And you know what the new narrative is? He's aging. When you had 2 coordinators last year changing the system, he doesn't get that benefit of the doubt and a broken hand at the beginning of the year. Haason Reddick, if he didn't have that broken hand at the end of the year, he'd had 15, 16 sacks again. This guy gave you in regular season play, counting the postseason, over 30 sacks. This guy combined, let's take a look at this. 4, 7.5. He has 27 sacks in 4 years. Reddick has 27 sacks in 2 years in the regular season. So when Xander and John are talking about Reddick and Bryce Huff, Bryce Huff can't have a 60% of what Reddick is. He can't have 80. He's got to live up and exceed. You know why? You're paying him more. And he has no history except for 1 season. This is how he's gambled. And what makes this gamble even more obnoxious, you didn't really get anything in return that could help your team in the next 2 years. Nothing. You just got rid of the kid. You can make the argument, why don't they just pay both of them? Spend some money. What's that number that Xander keeps posting on our JAKIB? You have the money to pay both. Why didn't you? Howie? You had $30 million. You have $30 million. What guy in the open market are you going to go out and fucking get right now that equals 27 sacks in 2 years? Tell me. Give me one guy. Dominique, why didn't he pay him? He's got 30. Guy's got 30 million bucks. What's that number Xander posts? 27 million? You could have easily paid for both. Thank you, Niner. You guys are floating that number out like it's a big deal. We'll use it. Get this. Senor goes, it's not serious. When you're relying on Nolan Smith and a one-year dude, and you better get pressure because your coordinator doesn't blitz, you don't think you have concerns if you're that D coordinator on where pressure's coming from. Holy cow. Senor doesn't think it's a deal because he's under the impression Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff are going to... So wait, you're going to use a first-round pick and an $18 million guy. Okay, another guy just said we're going to use Swift. You're going to use 3 guys to try to duplicate 27 sacks in Haason Reddick. That's cheap. Well, I'll use 3 guys to equal that number so I don't have to pay. He didn't upgrade the pass rush. He just moved money. It's like doing this. Well, I'm going to fire the guy and give him his salary. That's what he did. He fired Reddick and he gave Huff his money. That's not upgrade. That's cheap. And you still have $30 million under the cap. What are you saving it for? A new Slurpee machine? Or let me get, what's that NFLPA thing? Better lounges? What? Hook me up. Better locker rooms? Better chefs? What are you saving the money for? Huff isn't starting. I agree with that. I think they're going to situationally play him. Get this. Nick goes, Reddick did nothing the last 7 games because they were fucking dropping him in coverage. Did you not hear the players say it? I'm doing what they want me to do. They want me upstairs to drop in coverage. Did you not hear that? Or did you miss that too? You were telling me Desai and Matt Patricia sucked. Well, if it sucked for Brian Johnson and it sucked for Jalen Hurts, it sucked for Haason Reddick too. Did it or did it not? It have it both ways. How he's saving money for Nick's new knee pads. Thank you, Flexen. Thank you. Oh, I got it. Senor says Matt Patricia's a horrible coach. So that didn't affect Reddick's last 7 weeks of the season, right? But Brian Johnson's a shitty coach. That affected Hurts, right? Is that what you're saying? Right? Maniac goes, here I am. And Sills is yelling. Yeah, because how East Coast people have to be spoken to is you have to holler and you have to make them hear it, because most of the time, if you sound like some dweeb, they won't listen to you. That's the pedigree of where we're from. Okay? Hey, Nick, you're done. Nick, you're done. See, out west, they talk like this. Yeah, I don't know if the Dodgers are really going to really do a lot because that bullpen doesn't look really all that. I don't know. And really, Kershaw's just not the same guy. But I do think Shohei Ohtani and Freeman are going to be okay. But hey, you know what? Time will tell. You know, the Padres are now 24-24. I don't know. No one hears that. No one hears that. Please hit the like button. Keep it up, guys. You guys are doing great. By the way, Joe Theismann's going to join us at 3:30 Eastern Time. Gary Cobb is at a golf event, and I'm being told we're going to get legendary Eagles on. We may even get some legendary New York Giants on, too. So I have no idea who Gary's going to put on. Seals, the problem with Philly was more in tackling department than the sack department. Come on, fool. Understand the basics, please. Yeah, you went from 70 to what, 50? This guy's trying to tell you that he thinks they had no issues with pressure last year. You had one double-digit sack guy. The year previous, you had 4. And this guy's trying to bullshit you guys and tell you that they had great sacks last year from people on their front 7. That's a bull-faced lie. It's an absolute – they were never good tacklers. They've never been. Last 2 years, they were ranked one of the worst tackling teams in the league. But at least you got pressure. You didn't even get pressure last year. So what are you talking about? That's a bull-faced lie. Reddick is a pure pass rusher. He's not a cover linebacker. Why'd you drop him then? Okay? Why'd you drop him? Hargrave and Cox opened it up for everyone. Yeah, Hargrave had 11 sacks his last year in Philly. And Fletcher had 6.5. You basically almost had 20 sacks between your starting defensive tackles a year ago or 2 years ago. How many did you have last year between your starters? 9? But there wasn't a drop-off. Okay. Tackling was a bigger issue. A lot of yak against Eagles. And where'd you upgrade that? By going to a 3-4. How have you upgraded that? By putting worse tacklers on the field. Think of that. You've put worse tacklers on the field. Sweat was also terrible in the second half. Yeah, because he had 938 snaps. Year previous, he had 690. Devin White can't tackle? No. That's why he was benched. Carter's going to have a breakout year. I could see this. Yes. So this hey, this is the biggest gamble Howie has made. It's not really, well, here's what you're gambling, and here's the gambles that he's made. Tell me if you disagree. Barkley's health at $10 million. Huff will replace Reddick in 24. Gardner Johnson will look like he did 2 years ago coming off an injury. Right? The rookies, I'm not even going to, we'll wait and see how they play. I can't say anything either way on them until I see them in a game situation. So you don't, it's not fair to them, actually, to say anything either way. Okay? And to some extent, the safer things are actually the coordinators. Kellen's put up numbers, scoring and numbers. I just showed you Dak in the last 3 years. Well, shit, 2 of those years were under him. He's 6th in passing yards and touchdowns. Couldn't have been that bad. I do not believe that Jordan Davis is a bust. I think they've been not having him in the right position. I think he's going to a natural position. And if they play him on first and second down and they play him in that role, he'll be fine. He'll be Sam Adams, Via Veda, Vince Wilfork. Players like that, those guys won Super Bowls and were instrumental in stopping the run. Dude, the two things the Eagles have to do this coming year, like they did in 1920, they have to run the ball and they have to stop the run. Isn't it funny? Two things that last year at the end of the season in the second half, they couldn't do either. And that's how the team just is disintegrated. Sills, what's your honest take when you see Jordan Davis? I see a player that's never lived up to his skill set. So what you have to do, Steven, is find a way to utilize like Jim Johnson. Steven, I'll tell you what I truly believe that Jim Johnson would do with a guy like Jordan Davis. He would put him in the best skill set possible. And if he failed at it, that's the player. A coach's responsibility is not to plug and play you in your system. It's to find what that guy does the best. Okay? What he does the best. And to me, put him in first and second down. Put him on a nose. If he struggles with that, put him in a shade. But then again, you don't have the linebackers to be able to handle that because they're the smallest linebacking core in the league. You're kind of at a player deficiency here. Remember, what's the one thing in that press conference Vic Fangio said? You know what it was? Hey, how do you have a good scheme? He goes, good players. And I don't think you have good enough linebacker play. I just don't. I think they want him to look like Calais Campbell, not J.J. Watt. Jordan Davis will never be Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell's got 100 sacks in his career. Okay? Or you're talking about Bryce Huff. Well, I don't know which one you're talking about. Okay? But Calais Campbell's got over 100 sacks in his career. And for you to be talking about a guy like that, he has more sacks than Brandon Graham. So before you start talking about, Calais Campbell may be one of the most underrated ends in pro football that's ever played in the last 20 years. This guy's got 100 sacks. I mean, you don't have – I can't think the last man you've had 100 sacks except for Reggie. Maybe the linebacker guy who was your edge rusher. Maybe he had 100 sacks. Eagles relying on pressure to come from the interior, not from the edge. Well, they're going to have to get pressure from the edge in wide open space. I get this. Bryce Huff, you're not rushing him from the short side of the field. You're going to rush him from the wide side. Milton's already better than Jordan Davis. He's more consistent. Milton Williams has a better chance of being Calais Campbell. Absolutely true. That's absolutely a great take, Dominique. Yes. In 2 years, Jalix Hunt will dwarf Huff in terms of production. Hope so. Sills, when is more pressure favored over 10 sack seasons? All the time. You can have a guy have 10 sacks and it won't matter at all when it came to not getting to the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback to not have design routes. And just to show you how that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, Forte, I'll get this to you. Guy gets back there and gets a sack, right? And he has 10 of those. How about a defensive front seven who constantly gets back there and denies the route to develop? You tell me what's more important. Over 65 plays, if your pressure is getting to the quarterback and those routes are not able to develop, what's one sack in a game mean? But if I'm consistently getting hits on the quarterback and pressures in a game, what matters more? Pressures in a game and hits on the quarterback, or 2 sacks or 1 sack by one guy? I'll take the pressure because the routes don't get to develop, and also my corners aren't stressed, especially in man coverage or especially in zone coverage that he likes to run. One sack from BG won us the Super Bowl. Okay. And you still gave up 575 yards in that game almost. No, you're right. Huff getting one sack and no pressure the rest of the game. That'll win you a game. Okay. Sure. That's like telling me a guy has one touchdown catch over 10 games. You're out of your minds, man. One of the things that made that Eagle team so great in 22 was the volume of pressure they got. Okay? I'm trying to get to 250 likes. Thank you, guys. By the way, bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to Joe Theismann. We'll ask Joe Theismann that question. Okay? We will. We'll ask Joe Theismann that question. Xander, where are we in the likes, my friend? Appreciate you guys doing this here on this Monday. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys a lot for doing this, man. Okay? Really awesome. Again, but it's been really fantastic the last couple of weeks. Dude, we're at 79. We gotta hustle here a little bit. So let's pick it up a little bit here. I'd like to get to 250 by the end of the program. Joe Theismann's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. George Young won Super Bowls with Hostetler. What the hell does Howie have to do with anything? God, you guys have to get off this guy. What do you mean Howie have to do with anything? It's Howie's players. The coaches don't have any say in who plays at all in any way. No say. All right. Hit the like button. Please, we're trying to get to 250. Joe Theismann's going to join us in a couple minutes. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.